chasing success or chasing women or chasing all this stuff, it's a hollow, temporary fulfillment.
Welcome back to the channel, folks. I am joined by a special guest. This is Administrative Results, or Mr. Administrative Result. What do I call you?
You will call me Lord Results, Commander of the Night's Watch, Guardian of the Realm, Keeper of all things right. You can call me Aaron. Yeah, that works too.
This is just spot on response. Fantastic. No wonder you've blown up in an age where you're on the wrong side of the algorithm. If you didn't start a gun channel years and years ago, to be able to get big now, man, that's part in the Red Sea. Yet here you are. You got multiple channels over 100K, and your main channel's coming up on 600K, and your views have exploded. Man, you are a content creator extraordinaire for the gun world. Man, I want to get into your process and your drive, but I thought I would go ahead and give you some softballs straight down the middle, some warm-up questions. You good with it?
Sure, I'm good with that.
Favorite action movie?
It's a toss-up. I'm thinking, like, when I think action movie, I don't necessarily think war movie. Like, the first thing that came to mind was Heat, though. Yeah, yep. I do love Michael Mann, it's Michael Mann. I love him with Tom Cruise. Collateral. I love Collateral, too. That's a really good one. But, yeah, I think Heat takes the cake.
Thick or thin crust?
Thin crust.
Pineapple on pizza, okay, or an abomination?
It's a free country, so technically yes, but not in my household. We serve the Lord.
This interview can continue. If a movie was made about your life, what actor would you want playing you?
I would choose maybe...
Just say Grand Thumb and we'll move on.
Tom Hardy. I'll do Tom Hardy. I like Tom Hardy.
Oh, that's a great pick for you. Fantastic. He'd crush it. He'd probably do you better than you.
Oh, he probably would, yeah.
Favorite stand-up comedian?
Brian Regan.
Good one. I Walked on the Moon. Book that impacted you when you were a teenager?
What if I told you I was really bad at reading books as a teenager?
All right. The very first book that ever impacted you?
Oh, Starship Troopers.
If you had to fight a duel to your death and it couldn't be firearms, what weapon would you choose? And let's say you're fighting Kentucky Ballistics, if that changes anything. And he doesn't have a shirt on and no pants on either.
Oh, I'll smoke him with my bow. I got this bad boy. It's a 100-pound draw at 30 inches. It's an English war bow made of yew. I've been working up for it to do a video on it. This thing has been kicking my butt. It's I've been on a big English archery kick, so that's why.
What's the most important ingredient that's like fueling your creative process? What does your process look like for content creation? What's your drive kind of behind it? What are you after? Talk to us about content creation.
It's funny about that. The drive is I'm very obsessed with making videos. I love the start to finish. You hear that phrase, the guy who likes to walk will go farther than the guy who likes a destination. So I love the act of making videos. It's when you think of the idea and then you get everything in place to execute, and then you finally execute, and then you have the finished product, and you have the thumbnail, and you have the title, and you have the description. Everything comes together to make this experience for someone because you went out there and you willed into creation, and from your brain you willed into creation something that didn't exist before. That's like the most rewarding thing about that. And then of course the trick to it is scaling that up to be sustainable over a long duration of time, because just about anybody can go out and make a video, right? They can borrow high-speed gear, they can borrow all like the good stuff, but it's, hey, they may not make the money off it, they may not get the views off it to make the money off it. So it's like you have to have this perfect storm of stuff to make it a longevity of a business. Like I'm sure you're very aware of, because you have way more employees than I do. But it's and then for inspiration, I would say it's just like all over the place. It's really funny where it'll come from at certain times. I have to just write stuff down when I think of stuff. I'm like, oh, that'd be a good video, so I write it down real quick. Or I think of my interests, and I thought originally, like even with the Warbow video I plan to do, it doesn't necessarily fit a GunTube channel. But when I thought about it and I shift perspective on it, I was like, this actually would fit with the culture of GunTube, how I see it in a certain way. So that's how I'm going to kind of like pitch my perspective on it, right? So it's kind of like taking, because there's already like nothing's new under the sun, but I can take my perspective of something and share that. And that's I think, what would change up any already created content. So
is there a part of the process that you don't like? I'm thinking right now, I have a part of the process that I absolutely never want to wrestle with. What is yours, if there is something like that?
It's probably going to be, if I'm going to be brutally honest, it's like the business side of things. Because
Yeah.
today, like I did a lot of filming this week, which I love, but now I'm like I got to be in the office today. I got to answer emails. I got to do like some back end stuff. I got to prune the YouTube channels on certain things. And it's like I'm stuck in the office. And one of the main
Mhm.
reasons I wanted to be a YouTuber was so I could ignore all my emails and do whatever I want, right? So that's like, that was the main allure of like, I'm my own boss. I can do whatever, whenever. Ironically, I never stop working now. So it's probably going to be the business side of things, I'd say. Because it's
I
like
get it.
when you're a creator, you have this big ambition of like, I just want to create content, and then if you want to scale it up, you also have to be like a business person as well.
Yeah.
And it's not really talked about as much in this in the creative space, I would say. What about
Right.
yours?
Mine is thumbnail and title. That's
Okay.
just, I like all the other parts of content creation
Mm,
usually, but that one, it's like that, most of your view will come from
yes.
how you
Yeah.
title it and thumbnail. And I've had amazing content, something that I was really proud of it. I thought we hit it out of the park. And then we just didn't do super solid on the title or thumbnail and it
Hmm.
fell flat. And I'm like, man,
Yep.
oh, and conversely, videos you didn't really kill, but the thumbnail was so good it was destined for greatness. Now, all
Yep.
that's before because now it's a crapshoot. Now I have no idea what the algorithm's going to let people see. I
Yeah.
don't know. But for the first time, I'm not sure whether a video is going to do really well or really poorly.
Mm.
And even my really well now is the same as my really bad 2, 3 years ago. I think I've tripped every red flag that they have, and I'm on naughty. I'm on the
Yeah.
naughty list's naughty list, and
Yeah.
so
That thumbnail and title, that is where 90% of that work comes from, I'd say.
yeah,
Like I can think of ideas all day long, but I'm like, if I can't sell it with the thumbnail and the title, then it's like
that's it.
I don't know if it's going to be a good video or not.
So I'm thinking back now to the very first video I saw of you. And at
Mm,
that time, you were masked. Everything you did was the black balaclava,
yeah.
and it was super fun. But you did a video making fun of me. So my first impression of you was you making fun of me and a few
Right.
other gun tubers. You remember that one?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If we can go ahead and open our Bibles today
It was from a place of love
to Psalms 144, verse 1.
because you guys all created the culture that I grew up in. So it's like I want to pay my homage and poke fun at you guys.
It's funny. We have these generations, even amongst
Mm,
gun tubers. Every couple years, a new generation. You're the new young hotness,
mm,
HAWT hotness. And,
mm.
I'm from a few years back. And then before me, Travis Haley, who you were also
Mm.
just ripping to shreds in a fun, edifying slash
Right, right,
slap you across the face kind of way. But
right.
your impression of him was spectacular.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I God just gave me the best Travis Haley impersonation I can ever do. Yeah, give me one sec. Hold on. Hey, John, thanks for having me on the podcast today. Today we're hold on, John. Sorry, it's a little bright in here. All right, hey, John, thanks for having me on the podcast. I wanted to talk to you about a few things. Okay, here at Haley Strategic, we have a few core principles and values. Okay, and what are those?
You tell me, Travis. I don't know.
Oh,
What
hey,
are
good.
they?
Well, you're a warrior poet. What am I? I'm a dragonfly. All right, I fly really high, really fast. Okay, we really focus on our biomechanics and how they come into the gunfight. Okay, everything going on here. Your brain's a supercomputer surrounded by a meat mech suit with an exoskeleton of flesh armor. Okay, is it that good at stopping bullets? Absolutely not. But we can teach you how to throw bullets really good using those biomechanics. Okay,
It's Travis. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd love to get back
absolutely.
on with Aaron if you don't mind.
Oh,
Aaron's
yeah, yeah.
holy cow, Aaron, you should have been there for that. Travis Haley
Was
joined
Travis
us.
here? Travis
Travis
was
was
here?
here. He was
Oh,
here.
man.
What's your background, Aaron?
So I was born in Kansas, and my parents moved to Arizona in '99, and then everyone in my family are all pastors except for myself.
Oh wow.
Um, so my dad was a pastor, my mom's a pastor. Everyone in my family was pastors. They're all married to pastors, and so it's just how they roll. For whatever
So
reason, I was like, I don't really feel the pastor bug, so I wanted to go do something else. I'm still young, maybe it'll change, but I don't know if I'm feeling called to it.
wow.
So fast forward, you know, played football in high school. That had a lot of influence on what I'd want to do. The classical jock route if you want to go find something where you get paid to carry a gun. And then I was looking to do the military after high school because both my older brothers were in the military. And, for whatever reason, it was just not working out because I was trying to be an officer. So I was
Mhm.
going to ASU. I was in the ROTC program for 2 years there. I got to a point where it was like, hey, you either have to start paying full time for ASU classes because you could take a program through MCC. You could take a program that was super cheap and you can go to military science at ASU. And I was like, oh, this is really fun. I really like it. But I hated everything else about college. I absolutely hated it. I sucked at college. I'm not good at it. I hate doing anything related to it. It's all super like woke too. And
Mm.
it just wasn't working out. So then I was like, well, what if I enlist? And my brother's like, hey, don't enlist. You're gonna hate your life. And so it's one of my regrets, if I'm being honest. I should have just enlisted and knocked it out because it would have been like 4 years if I would have done it. And then a weird thing happened where I was working at a gun store, and my boss was like, hey, I got this buddy that works at this PD. You should go apply for him. And I was like, I got nothing to lose. I need to start my career somewhere. And I applied for the PD, and I always heard guys had a really hard time getting on, but it was like
Mm.
the easiest process to get onboarded with them because I'm like young, I have no past, and it's like, all right, cool, you're hired. And it was like, all right, sick. I guess this is what I'm doing now. So it got me to there. And then in the PD, I got bored, and I started a YouTube channel. And then the YouTube channel took off. And then when I was working at this PD, they issued a mandatory vaccine.
Mm.
And that's when I quit and started doing YouTube full time, and gets us up to this point right now.
And you landed on the name Administrative Results. Where'd that come from?
Right. So this one will get me into hot water with the woke crowd because it's based off executive outcomes. So it's a synonym of the first two names of executive outcomes. Now, executive outcomes, they all often get a lot of like, hey, there's war crimes or ties to apartheid government. I thought it was cool because of the ties to Blood Diamond. So
Yeah.
in the movie Blood Diamond, there's this mercenary company, and it's like they're never really named, but everyone's like, it's executive outcomes in the movie, and so that's why a lot of my interest came from. And then just that like military history they had there. It's like,
Mhm.
of course, racism is bad, no duh. But the military history of like Rhodesia and South Africa, I found really interesting. It was never really covered in American culture growing up. It's like something you really have to go looking for. It's one of those forgotten wars. And the South African border war is actually it's like the largest war in Africa since World War II
Oh,
that
yeah.
took place. So there's a lot of
Right.
military history that went into it, and that's what drew my interest. So I picked executive outcomes. But even Barlow brought executive outcomes back from the dead, like right after I started. So I was like, ooh, I don't want to be that guy that's stealing his name. So I
Yeah.
just found the first two synonyms of executive outcomes and it's just administrative results. So
No,
then it kind of sounds funny, it's like an office supply company, but it's a gun tube channel.
I get it. No, it has a good ring to it. Even if you didn't understand what it was, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I like that name. Is there a
Yeah.
Mrs. Admin, or do you have little tiny admins running around the house?
There's a Mrs. Admin, and then we have a baby on the way, which I'm really excited about. So it's been a real blessing on that aspect. Yeah.
Hey, nobody ever did me a solid and told me babies come out sometimes purple with cone heads, and nobody
Oh,
told me that. And so I thought my firstborn was totally like not gonna make it. I'm like, oh,
oh
that
man.
that kid is, and I immediately shifted into, I'm going to take care of the wife mode. This is a hard time, and she wasn't worried at all. But nobody warned me that they'll come out like purpley blue, real weak cry, kind of a cone head. You don't have to Play-Doh that action back into shape. It'll just naturally.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for the heads up. I had no idea.
It's my civic duty because that was a horrible moment for me. So nobody coached me. I didn't. There isn't a
Yeah.
Lamaze for dads, or
No.
maybe there is, but I'm not going. Hey, what's something about you that would surprise your audience?
Man, that's a good question. I guess the surprise is uh, I'm a big archery fan, like a traditional archery fan. That was my first love before getting into guns, I'd say. I remember being in high school and being like, it's probably no surprise now because I've talked about it more and more. But I remember being in high school or even younger, I would make my own bows out of any wood I could find, and they're always terrible. Or I'd make my own arrows. And then I got better at it, but then I got into like airsoft and I got into real guns and I kind of like lost it. And then coming back and I was like, wait, I have all this disposable income now where I can afford like better archery stuff. So that's when I started getting back into it now. And then I always had this love of like the 100 Years Wars, the English archery.
Yeah.
Like people will be like, hey, can you please stop talking about this? I'm like, no, it's crazy. A bunch of peasants with bendy sticks like wrecked the French noble. I mean, they're not just peasants; they're professional soldiers, but they wrecked like the French nobility at like 3 battles back to back. They had to use cannons to beat them. So it's one of my weird loves and passions. I love
Yeah.
the Total War video games. So it's like that classic meme where it's like, how do men in their late 20s and early 30s, like, how do you survive without moving troops around a board? Like, it's one of those things. I got a good pizza oven. That's another one. I've shown the pizza oven off though before. I'm
I've
trying to
heard
think
you
of
have a
anything
pizza
good.
oven in your backyard.
Yeah, yeah. I
That's
love the
awesome.
pizza oven. It's summer months are not pizza oven months, but when the winter time comes, it's fantastic.
Well, if you ever want to dork out on that time period, 1300s, 1400s, I can do that. I can do the Hundred Years' War stuff and the War of the Roses and all that stuff. I just read 4 books on it this last year. Have you read Conan Goldin's War of the Roses?
I have not.
You got to do it. It's a historical fiction. It's fantastic, and
Okay.
it's amazing. If it's, it picks up with Henry the Sixth. Henry the Fifth,
Oh,
the great
okay.
hero of
Yeah.
Agincourt.
Yeah.
Awesome, but he left this huge power vacuum when he had this very weak son, Henry the Sixth, and that power vacuum had all the strong lords and Duke of Yorks and all those guys rise up. And shows you that the danger of a weak man, it can be catastrophically worse than the danger of a strong man. And that's the 100 Years' War. That it's what happens when you have a weak man.
Really weird that you mentioned that. I started to watch Joan of Arc the other night, so it's like the French perspective during Henry VI. With Joan of Arc coming out of nowhere. I can't remember. It's the one with John Malkovich. I have to read. I can't remember how historically accurate or not. Some of the siege battle I was watching, I was like, this is super goofy looking. Because they're rolling these massive stones through this tube, and it launches out at the attackers. I'm like, what is that? Anyway,
if you see Joan of Arc wielding a sword and killing people, it's not historically accurate because even according to her bio, she just carried her banner. She was a very high. She's kind of an ancient cheerleader.
Yeah,
and I don't mean that condescending way. I'm like, hey, this gal was brave. She did good stuff, but she wasn't, snapping necks and cashing checks kind of thing.
I think the books that I was really on were the Bernard Cornwell's, the Archer series books.
Yeah.
Those ones were really like piquing my interest at historical fiction.
Right.
So that's that kind of thing what re-sparked it.
If your channel keeps going well and big tech overlords don't rob you blind, maybe you'll have a trebuchet before long. Is that attractive to you?
I would love a trebuchet. Yeah. Absolutely. There are certain sieges and castles and forts that I want to besiege, and I think the trebuchet would be critical in that aspect.
I think I need one too. I'd like to be able to pull one behind a team of horses, and then I'd be complete. Then my life would be complete. It's not complete now. I don't have a trebuchet, but once I do, me and you, bro. What's next for you, man?
Next, it's the nonstop content creation grind. I say like a grind. I love it. It's the nonstop of like, all right, there's all these videos. It's not like I'm like, all right, what am I gonna make? I already know what I'm gonna make. It's just like getting them made, and then scaling up the videos to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And then there's some stuff in the works I don't want to say just yet. I'll tell you in secret, or you have to cut it out of the video. But I'll happily tell you. I just don't want to like put it out there just yet because it's still in the infancy of happening. Mm-hmm. That's one of those things like it's precious, so I don't want to like throw it out there yet. But there is stuff happening, so I'm very excited about that. There's goals in place to take what I'm doing to the next level, and because the goal I found too is to shift culture, and the aspect of getting back to less wokeness is the thing I hate the most. Is that environment? It's just so insufferable. It's in a way it's also just evil. So shifting that culture back away from the woke power holders, I think is going to be critical. If you even just look at media in general, how we kind of disrupted the game. If like I remember watching Vice documentaries when I was younger and thinking, wow, these are really well produced. They're super high quality. These people must know what they're doing. Turns out, if you get a good camera, you can make just as high quality stuff as long as you and you just combine a narrative you want to attach to it. Bam, you got a cool, high quality narrative, piece. And it's like you just created your own essentially propaganda to go against their narrative,
Yeah.
So it really kind of like shattered the smoke and mirrors of what they were doing. And I was like, wait, I can do this stuff. So I know I kind of went on a tangent, but
no, it's good. We're having a conversation, and you're right. Of like, I hate all things woke, and hey, those people, they despise us. They use our own compassion against us. But it is dripping with a tyrannical authoritarianism that's just filled with hate. And then they church it up and guise it up to make it look like compassion. And it's not. It's only for those who agree with them or make them feel morally superior. And their morality is built on just hollow lies, right? Yeah. So you had mentioned your parents are, a pastors, right? So you come from faith, and what role does faith have in your life now?
Well, it has a massive role. It's the when you're young, you kind of go through that rebellious phase. I definitely went through that. And then as you get older, you start to realize that is very unfulfilling. And then you kind of come back to your faith, at least, right? At least I did. And it's that light in the darkness, because as you look around and you try and find anything else to make you happy, it's nothing can really do that besides the love of Christ. And it's, chasing success or chasing women or chasing all this stuff. It's a hollow, temporary fulfillment as opposed to what you could get. So that's kind of like your guiding star. Now, I'm not a perfect guy, right? I'm not like I'm not like some sort of like awesome pastor type dude or anything like that. But if I can encourage other guys, other young men like myself to go on that path of pursuing faith in Christ, however I can, then I think, that would be the best course of action. Now, I'm not going to be like preaching at them because I'm a gun guy. But if I can just hint them and kind of nudge them in that direction and see, hey, this is the basis for my beliefs, then I think that's going to be kind of where I'm based around, if that makes any sense.
Very good. Well, let's end with gun thing, because you kind of segued right into that. What gun do you have that you're the most proud of? Like burning down house. Imagine all of them are equal in monetary value. So you're not playing I'll grab the most expensive one. It's just, this is the precious. This is the one you want to keep secret and safe.
That's a tough question.
I know, man. I don't know my answer for me. I don't.
So here's something cool is I finally got my first transferable machine gun.
Yes.
So it was a cheaper one as far as they go, right?
Right.
Realistically, this thing should cost, I don't know, $500, $600 is my guess. It's good quality. It's the knockoff of the Swedish K. It's the Smith & Wesson M76. But then I got the H car, which I love the H car. To me, the H car was always like the symbol and the status of like, as a man, you have made it if you can afford an H car. Because not only can you buy this outlandishly priced rifle, you can afford to dispense of 30-06 like an AR-15. And then, of course, my true baby that put me on the map is my Blood Diamond Car-15, which when I was younger building it and I didn't have the resources that I do now, it was like when I finally got it built out, and technically it's got a tax stamp, it's SBR'd, it's got all the right parts now, minus like one thing. It was like this huge relief because it would consume my brain for so long, and I finally got it built. And then that's got so much sentimental value because it did essentially help build my brand. I think I got to go with my Blood Diamond Car-15.
Yeah, I think you do. It was obvious. It's hard to choose between your kids, but ultimately you got to save one of them from the fire.
You got to save one of the kids. Who's the best prospect? Yeah,
that's right. That's right. You're a terrible person. Fantastic. Hey, Aaron, thanks so much. Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate you. Love getting to know you, and we'll keep watching your content. Guys, if you're not subscribed to Administrative Results, I highly recommend you do. Very entertaining, engaging content. Don't do it. You know what?
Brain cells. Don't do it.
Screw it. Don't. If you're subscribed, unsubscribe. Bail now.
Yeah.
Get out on this. It's getting weird out there.
Good. Yeah, good. Do yourself a favor. He just keeps talking about English archery. Get out now while you can.
Awesome. Aaron, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, John. Yeah. Thank you.